Take my will and my life. Guide me in my recovery and show me how to live. Amen. My name is Brenda, a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. It's good to see you today. It's by the grace of a God I didn't even believe in when I got here that I have not had to drink alcohol or do drugs to change the way I feel since July the 3rd of 1990. Uh, don't do the math. It's 34 and a half almost. Wasn't intending on staying this long. I remember looking around the first few meetings and thinking, God, these people are in bad shape. And I thought, no wonder they're probably going to have to stay a long time. But I could probably get this whipped out here in like 3 full days. And after 34 and a half years, it's not that I'm not done. It's just that I have not been able to leave the goodness I found here. Those things that had been broken inside me and broken in my life, which I had already decided. It was like having a broken bone in my leg, and I had just decided I was going to forever have to live with it. But I am here to tell you that I have stayed in enough meetings, sponsored enough people, told enough truth, wrote enough inventories to be able to tell you that everything that had been broken and I thought lost has been restored. And I came on here today to tell you how that happened, how it happened for me. And Terry, I'm always happy to be of service. It's an honor to call you my friend. Um, and I am grateful for this opportunity. I understand too that there's folks on here that this might be your last meeting, that you got the advice I got at one point when the people who loved me said, just go to one more meeting. Just listen to one more story. Just read one more page. Because what had happened to me by that point of my life and in recovery was that I found myself in a place devoid of hope. And at that point, it wasn't anymore about wanting to drink or do drugs. And so I wanted to share today about what happened to me before sober, before clean, before you, and what it's like now. And those of you that know me know that I spend a good part of my share on what it's like now. Because if you've stayed somewhere in recovery, drug free for 34 years, with everything that can happen to a life in 34 years, I want to know how. Not only do I want to know how, I want to see. There was a speaker that used to say, I kept reading a book because I wanted to see how it was going to turn out. And I want to be clear too. I want to be clear that I am clean today, far more because of the grace of the universe, far more because of the grace I have found here with you than I am by anything I have done, anything special about me. None of that has helped me. I also know that. I also know that I've had the opportunity to travel and speak at conferences and recovery groups of all kind and uh and a lot of times when people come up at the end to you would think to say thank you and shake my hand or whatever, like that's not always what happens for me. People will come up and go, you're too loud, you're too much, you talk about God too much, or you read too much out of the book, or you didn't even reference the book, or and so everyone has an opinion. I don't get anything from the people that come up and say that there was 35 ways to do that better. In the same way, I don't get anything from the people that came up and told me there were 35 ways that it was incredible. The truth about who I am, The truth about the message of my life lives inside me. It originates inside me. The work has been here. And so nobody outside of me has more truth about who I am than I do. And I want you to know I spent many years in recovery trying to fit into whatever confines people had to put me in so they could hear me. I did that for way too long. I was trying to be this and then trying to be that and then trying to be this. And I remember I was in Austin, Texas, probably 20 years into my recovery. And I'm standing behind the podium and I told those folks, hey, by the way, I'm done with that. And it ended right now. I'm done. I'm done. There's no way to make everybody happy. There's no way. And so all I can really do is speak my truth, tell about my journey, and trust that I came for one of you. One of you. And and I and I it it may be you. And I was 24 when I sobered up. Again, don't do the math. I'm 58. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but looking rather delicious for the 58th year, I might say. um, I spent most of my life trying to figure out how to get what I needed from people without having to ask for it. Think about that for a minute. I spent most of my life trying to get what I needed from people without having to ask for it. Because where I came up, the rules were don't ever show weakness. Don't ever, don't ever retreat. And if necessary, shoot first, ask questions later. And so it's hard to be like a real human and live in that condition. Drug addiction, alcoholism, a very confused sense of self were the ways that I had to figure out how to live in the world to survive. Then I came to recovery and I wanted to do the things and say the things that I knew to do and say in order to survive. And so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I really do talk a lot about what happened to me. What happened to me? Look, who I was before was somebody who would cheat, lie, and steal. Even when I could tell the truth and suffer no consequences, it was still not my default. I believed that there was only so much good stuff to go around, and if you got it, you got mine. I believe that I had already disappointed whatever God existed, whatever that was. I had already washed my hands of it. I wanted nothing to do with it. I remember being about 4 years old. And I remember being about 4 years old. Now, what has to happen to you by the time you're 4 that you're having this conversation with God? At the age of 4, I said to God, hey, you were supposed to take care of me and you didn't do a good job. So I'm going to take care of me now. I don't need you. And I got down off that chair. I went and got in the chair at the table because that's where we prayed. So I figured that's where God was. So I got up on the chair. I said that to God. I got down off that chair. I pushed the chair in and I walked away from God. And and then proceeded to, with the rest of my life, not need anybody. Not need you, not need the job, not need friends, not need love, not need a thing. It was as if I was living on the streets in a spiritual way. And I did that until it didn't work. You need to hear me say that. I did it until it didn't work. And sometimes people come to me and they're like, I need a sponsor. I'm like, are you done? And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, you're not done. Are you done? Because I won't do the things required of me here if I'm not done. And it's that whole thing. It's insidious. Addiction is insidious because I would say to myself when people ask me, are you done? Do you want to work the steps? When people would ask me that, I think, well, yeah, but like see, I was gonna, so you gotta know, I'll hang out and do this thing, but if my mom dies, I'm out. If my dad dies, I'm out. If I get picked up and I got to get locked up, I'm sure not doing this in there, so I'm out. So I so that was the level of willingness that I got here with, and I would sit in meetings and listen to people talk, and in my mind I'm like, you probably have no idea how stupid you sound. I would look at people and think to myself, you're all over here sharing and stuff, but I can tell your life is shit. And people would come over and pour me coffee. In the meeting, people would come over and pour me coffee, and I'd say to them, I'm trying to clean up the language, but I'd say to them, did I ask you for coffee? Don't bring me coffee if I didn't ask for it. I had my family trained and my friends trained that if I needed something, all I did was look at that thing that I needed and they would get up and go get it. And they would bring it here and put it next to me. I would boast about the fact that people never left me. The complete truth is that they never left because they were afraid. They didn't stay because they wanted to. They didn't stay because they loved me. They stayed because they were afraid of what would happen if they left. These are some of the darkest places in my life. Some of the darkest places inside me to manipulate and control people like that. And every time I got what I wanted, I insisted on more. Every time I got what I wanted, I insisted on more. So there was no way you were ever going to be enough. No way you were ever going to give enough. No way you were ever going to present as enough. And I can tell you that even though all of that has been restored, fully restored, completely restored, I thank God for that twinge, for that twinge that it still creates to remind me that if I get to a place where I'm not willing to follow the directions that treat this addiction, that reality still awaits me. Look, I don't go to work because I love it. I go to work because they pay me. I'm not in recovery working the steps because I think it made me a greater person. I think it be whatever. Like, that's not why I do it. I do it because my life depends on it. So let's not get that twisted. And so, like, then people started making the mistake of, I guess they would run out of people to share, and they're like, would you like to say something? But really, like, oh shit, like that, right? Not, do you have something you'd like to say? And not go off into some cussing tirade, like I would just go through the meeting and point out people and shit that they shared that didn't make no sense. And because all I knew to do, and this is so important, this is who my disease made me. All I knew to do was use what I knew how to use to back you up off me. I didn't care if I had to hurt you to do that. I didn't care if I had to ignore you to do that. But the message was back away. And lucky for me, as it turns out, that I was not unique in that experience. That the room was actually kind of filled with folks that had spent a lot of the time in their disease pushing away people who brought light, pushing away people who brought love. And I'm tearing up because I'm one of 9 kids in my family. I have 6 sisters and 2 brothers. And I remember the day that I was going to celebrate my 3rd year clean. Every year, the week of my anniversary, July 3rd, that I give myself a gift. And the gift that I gave myself for my 3rd year birthday was to go and make my amends to my brothers and sisters. And it was about 11:30 the night before. I was going to wake up 3 years sober and clean and free and awake the next day. And I went to a place where my sister worked. She was the last one left on my list. And I walked into her work and I'm already just sobbing. And I walked up and I found her where she was. And I said to her what I had said to the others. And what I said was, I wanted you to know that I was wrong. That when you when you wanted something from me and I couldn't give it to you, I made you think there was something wrong with you for needing it. The truth is that I started drinking and doing drugs when I was 12 and I left. And I couldn't find my way back. I couldn't even want. There wasn't enough left of me to want to come back. But I'm clean now. And I wanted to come introduce myself to you. I said, I'm Brenda, and I'm your sister. And I would love one more chance to get to know you. And I went back and I got in my car. I don't think I waited for her to answer me. I remember walking away, which is probably what I did. But I got back in my car and I shut the door behind me and I was just bawling. And finally, when I could look up and see through my eyes again past my tears, I realized I had parked under a tree. And the light of the moon through that tree and onto my face. I understood that I had not been alone in this endeavor. Look, I only call God because I don't know what else to call her or him or it. And apparently he don't care. God doesn't care. Does not at all care the name I use. God is only preoccupied with whether I use any name to reach for any power outside of myself. And so I get around here, we start reading the book, they start asking questions. I'm already taking everybody's inventory, and when asked to share, I go ahead and share it. I never realized they meant on the topic. I thought they just wanted me to share my thoughts, so I did that. Y'all need me to be more specific. Y'all didn't give me enough guidance. See how I am still in my disease? That was clearly y'all's fault. Y'all should clear that up when y'all invite people to share. Give them a little bit more guidelines. And then we came to the idea of God. And I'm like, yeah. Um, by the way I got my first sponsor is that this lady walked up to me and she said, I'm your new sponsor. This is exactly how I looked at her, 34. I'm like, she said, yeah, we drew sticks and I got the short one. First, you're my sponsor, then you're just gonna flat out insult me right here to my face. Do you understand how little you are, lady? Back up. She was about this tall. I could have folded her and put her in my pocket. She said, yeah, I'm your new sponsor. Here's my phone number. Call me when you have an idea. What? Call me when you have an idea. Look, I didn't have nothing else going on, man, but I had some ideas. And then she wanted to talk about God. And I'm like, look, uh, I didn't realize that that was like, I didn't realize that that's what was this was all about. And so I already told God a long time ago that I didn't want nothing to do with him and for him to stay out of my way. And we would just kind of have both honored that. So I don't really want to do this anymore. And she's like, you don't have to believe in God to get clean. By the way, I have read all the literature, and it's not in the literature that it's that you have to believe in God to get clean. That's a side topic, but it is. She's like, you don't have to believe in God to get clean. And I said, keep talking. She said, you just need something that can do something you can't do. Now, I was thoroughly confused by that, but I'm not about to let this woman who I could fold, as I mentioned, say something to me that I didn't understand. And so I said, what did you say? She said, you just need a power that can do something you can't do. And I'm thinking, well, ma'am, we're the same place. Because I can't think of nothing I can't do. She goes, all right, come outside. So I went outside with her. She goes, okay, go ahead. Make lightning. Which way should I be facing? This, you're going to do right here? Go ahead. And like a real smart ass, she stood out there for way too long. And it dawned on me that I didn't know, I didn't know how to make lightning. And I'm like, this is a stupid thing. Why are we doing this stupid thing? You're not good at this, ma'am. You're not good at this. Whatever. I don't think nobody else wants their people to make lightning. You're expecting too much. It's because I'm brown, right? Y'all have a different expectation for brown people. You can't make me not come here. The other people I heard in the meeting, they said that I could come here when I said I could come here. So she said, okay, 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 relax. So you can't make lightning? I said, yeah, I said that. She goes, no, you didn't. She goes, go ahead, say it. Say you can't make lightning. And y'all need to know truth, honest truth. I am cleaning up my part of that conversation because what came out of my mouth next was not spiritual in nature. But at the end of it, the words that mattered, the words that had to be spoken were spoken. I looked at her and I said, fine, I can't make lightning. Are you happy? Better because I stopped yelling at people for giving me coffee. And that's where I started. That's where I started my relationship with God. And nothing more was required. I came and I sat and I didn't know what they were saying and they'd read and I didn't know what they read and I just pretended as if, I just acted as if nobody cared. They just cared that I was there. And I would go and I'd tell these awful stories about crap I'd done because first my problem was I didn't want to talk and then the other problem was I didn't want to shut up. Don't get me wrong, I didn't share about anything that still had case numbers open because I ain't stupid. Everybody hydrate right now. Let's take a little break together. True addicts. Everybody in the picture. Hold up, hold up. Hold up. I had people ran off camera to go get something to drink. I love y'all. I love y'all. Y'all just right there, man. And that is what is proof that we still have this disease. I don't mean to get into your step work, but might be something to look at. So I have spent the last 34 years of my life bringing whatever has come up in my heart out into the open, out into the light, out into the steps. I have spent the last 34 years speaking whatever truth I know. I have spent the last 34 years helping when I can, every time I can. You know where I learned to do that? Look, I got something y'all need to write down. I mean, I ain't gonna pressure y'all to write down, but probably I need to write it down. And that is that every single time I ask God for help, you know what happens? Every single time, 100% accuracy. Every time I ask God for help, God helps. What? Every time. Every single time. And I'm working through the steps and I'm like, God, I can't do that. And no, I ain't doing that. And no, when we read and they were like, yeah, we got to make a list of the people that we heard and then we got to make amends to them. I'm like, yeah, no. So I'll be here till step 7. After 7, I'm out. See, for a long time, I couldn't really receive grace. Grace, by the way, is that feeling that I'm okay and that you're okay without me having to earn it. I mean, it's just that the feeling that I'm okay without having to earn it. That thing that I learned how to do here that I didn't know how to do before. People often ask me, how do I know if the steps are working? How do I know if is your life bigger or smaller? Do you feel closer to whatever experience of God you're having, or do you feel further away? That's how I measure. Can I do now what I couldn't do before? When I got here, I knew how to slam doors, cuss you out, 2 languages, and run your name through the mud. So after 34 years, if I don't know how to do something else, that's a problem. And by the way, I learned how to do something else a long time ago. But that's an easy way for me to mark. Can I do something? Can I respond to my life? So 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 this is the week of Thanksgiving, and I would oftentimes, because most of us will be around family, and all of those people need to work the steps. And I remember that I would go to a meeting or whatever, and I'm like, man, my brother-in-law's gonna be there. He's a jerk. He's a and I'd be mad, my brother-in-law. And then I'm like, my sister's gonna bring that thing that nobody eats, but she brings it every freaking year. And I mean, like that, all that, all that. And then my sponsor said to me one day, he said, Brenda, you're telling me what an asshole your brother-in-law is. Just know that wherever your brother-in-law works, you're the asshole he's talking about. What? What? He's standing in front of the people in his life saying, my asshole sister-in-law is going to be there. I'm not going to lie. The first thing I thought of, where does he work again? What was I going to go do? Go beat the hell out of him? Maybe. Um, and he said to me, he goes, you're his asshole. I said, that sounds really unattractive, sir. And then it dawned on me that if I'm an asshole and he's an asshole, one of us has a book. One of us has a relationship with God. One of us has found a solution. So one of us should ask God to present better. And I'm not going to lie to you. The thing that made it real easy for me to be friendly to my family and the people that love and cared for me was that my sponsor used to say to me, she goes, this could actually be the last Thanksgiving. And sometimes I'd go with the hope that, hey, one of y'all losers is not going to be here next year, so I'm just here for it. Starting, maintaining, working on, surrendering a relationship with this power, the power that can make lightning, has been a tremendous adventure. I would like to tell you that, everything's worked out in my favor, that life has been easy, that working these principles has been a complete joy. But the truth is that none of that is the truth. One of the biggest problems that I had with whatever God people were talking about was that, like, the dude really messed shit up. Like there's a bunch of stuff in the world that's not working right. If like he's supposed to be all that, like if he's supposed to have all the power and stuff, then how come crap happens to people? How come people like me happen to people, right? I wanted an answer to that question. And and then I got one. Because the thing that makes me different from everything else God made was that I'm the only one that can decide to impose my will. So apparently, all that crap that's been happening that I've been hanging on God's neck, apparently, everybody else gets to exercise their will as well. And when I'm in conflict with another human, it's because they've exercised their will where I have not welcomed it. I remember when we got to the second step, and my sponsor's like, well, you have to find some power. The lightning thing works. So if it's working, let's go with it. And I remember one day that I was done running from God. Whatever that was, I was done running. And I turned around and I looked at that power in the face and I said, I'm done. You want to kill me? Kill me. Go right now. I'm finished. I'm not running from you anymore. I'm done with it. And God walks up to me. He's like, he's a little out of breath. He said, I have been running after you. I'm like, I knew you had. He said, but it's only because I've been trying to give you a hug. What? He's like, I was just chasing you because I was trying to give you a hug. I'm like, what the hell you want to do that for? What the hell? Do you remember when I did this and this and this? And do you remember that one thing you said, don't do that, and then I did it? And then I did it like 4 times to make sure you knew I did it? Remember that? What the hell do you mean you've been running after me to give me a hug? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And then when a moment happened that I didn't even realize it, the question went from what's wrong with you to what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? So, like when you're new and you get new information and then you want to share it at the meeting. I went to a meeting and I'm like crying like this. And I said, hey, y'all, listen to what I'm about to say. And people were like, is that stupid Mexican again? Who is that? Yeah, that's her. Listen to what she gonna say. Everybody listen up. So once I had everybody's attention, I'm like, there's something wrong with me. I don't think that the whole group is supposed to laugh at the same time like that. I didn't realize I needed God because I thought there was something wrong with me. And my life became about hiding that from you. That's where I thought there was something wrong with me. So if I could put something in my body that would change the way I presented to the world, I was going to do that. And the truth is that I thought I'd disappointed God. I didn't listen to me when I tell you, I could not find my way back into that relationship after having pushed that chair back under the table. I couldn't find my way back to God after I walked away and pushed the chair back in. It has been a pilgrimage of grace, this life I have. I'm a school teacher. I teach 12-year-olds. I teach math to 12-year-olds every day. I started using when I was 12. So I have spent the last 18 years atoning and creating, with God's help, a beautiful generation of kids. My first year teaching, my kids scored a perfect 100 on the standardized testing here in Texas. By the way, that's how we determine who goes to heaven. Oh God, I hate living here. And my kids did really well. And so they asked me if I'd go teach an in-service to a bunch of teachers. I said, sure. Now they had sent stuff that was supposed to help me, help the kids, and we just put it in the closet because I didn't know what any of it was. But should we figure out what it was and need to pull it out, it was in the closet. It was still all in the wrapping. I really had no idea. And so I go to teach this in service, and I don't even know what they're talking about. I have no idea what. And but then they're like, she's gonna share with us how she helped her kids score a perfect 100 on the test, and everybody clapped. And then I didn't really have anything to say because I didn't know what they wanted. And so I said, does anybody have any questions? By the way, when you don't know what to say, just ask if anybody has any questions. And so some lady asked a question about some objective and the subset C about the thing. And I'm like, ma'am, look, let me just help you out. Sit down, sit down. Okay, so what I did was that I did all my work around my anger. I did all my work around my sense of abandonment. I did all my work with all my rage. I did all my work around my grief. I did all my work so that when the kids came to class and they presented in those ways, it did not scare me. I went and did my work so the kids could come as they are. If teaching every day doesn't make you feel the way it makes me feel, where the future comes to me every day, go do something else. Go find whatever makes you feel like that and go with all your heart in that direction. They never asked me to teach another in-service again. Apparently, they were listening. I had a little boy that fainted in my class one day. I keep a chicken on the fan. They're like, ma'am, miss, there's a chicken on the fan. I'm like, without skipping a beat, I'm on my computer. I'm like, that's not a chicken. That's one of the kids from last year. A little boy fell out. He fell on the floor. And they're like, ma'am, Thomas fell. I said, is he okay? They're like, I don't know. I said, kick him a little bit, see if he moves. He didn't move. So, I figured, oh, okay. So I went back there and he's passed out completely. He's gone. And so they called the ambulance and whatever. And about 2 hours later, his mom is at the door of the classroom. I'm like, I was thinking, I hope he's okay, but also I was thinking, does he remember being kicked? Uh, and so she comes and I said, why is he here? She said, well, he's having some sort of seizure stuff, and he wanted me to bring him back to class because he said that if anything happened to him, that you would know what to do. Hmm. I taught my kids how to go outside when it rains. If you invite me ever to speak at your group and it's raining, you better have somebody keep up with me because I'm going out in the rain. Guaranteed. I don't care where I'm going. I don't care where I speak. And I have stood behind podiums soaking wet because it rained right before it was my turn to speak. So I taught the kids how to go out in the rain. And they would watch me hold my face up to the rain. One year, I remember I'd taken them out and I was working on something. And then I turned up to look at him, and I'll never forget. There were these like 30 kids, all 12 years old, completely quiet with their faces up to the rain. They have gone on to do remarkable things. They have grown up to be remarkable parents. I see them out now with their kids. I was at a football game from the high school I graduated from. A bunch of us went back, and I saw this man. By the way, I will play with any kid that looks at me in the restaurant. I'm like, peekaboo. That's me. And so here comes a little girl running, little curly hair. I'm like, look at you. Yay. Come here. And didn't know who to. And her dad's keeping up behind her because, I didn't want to take her home. I like kids, but I like that they go live somewhere else in the evening. Um, so I picked her up and I asked him, can I pick her up? Should I pick her up? And then he says, do you remember me? And I look up at him. I said, not your name, but your eyes. Yes. And then he told me his name. He said, I, I was in your sixth grade class. He said, I saw you and I wanted my little girl to meet you. Well, it's never a good story when you share in recovery, if you don't end with a story about a mammogram. So, so I went to go have one and, look at all the newcomer guys. What does this have to do with me? Just be quiet. So I go to have a mammogram. They got the wrong day. I had the wrong day. They had the wrong day, so I didn't get it. And then I went the next week for my mammogram, and the machine wasn't working. Um, and then I went a third time, and now I was at a different facility at a different place with a different. And I'm like, y'all figure it out. This is gonna happen today. As third time I've taken off work to come do this. And I get back there and I've disrobed and their little tech is behind her little screen and all this. She goes, did you used to be a school teacher in the sixth grade? And I'm thinking, can we discuss this at another more better time right now than just, oh yeah, that was me. I said, can we just like finish up the test and then maybe, when I'm fully dressed, we could discuss this. So we did. And I got fully dressed and she came back and she goes, I thought I was never going to see you again. I thought I was never going to see you again. And I've been begging God to let me see you again. She goes, but I didn't know where you were. And I called back to the school and they couldn't find, I mean, she was like hyperventilating. I said, oh, that sounds great. Now, why were you looking for me? What happened? And she says, you changed my life. She said, after I graduated from high school, you had told us always that the purpose of a life is to serve others. That's the purpose of a life. She goes, so I asked my life what could be its purpose and how I could serve others. She goes, and I joined the military and I did it, and I went and did this and and she just her entire life since then. She goes, and I thought I was never going to see you. Now she's sobbing and now I'm sobbing and we're crying there. And she said, I thought I was never going to see you. And I told God that if I could see you one more time, that I wanted to look you in the eye and tell you that I love you and that it mattered, that you were who you were. There's a good chance that I might not ever meet you guys in person. There's a good chance that we may never be in the same Zoom room even again. So I want you to know it was my intention and my prayer to make the most of the time we had together, that I will always believe in what you're about, that I am sorry the way that life has hurt you and broken you, but I am here to tell you, I'm here to give you my word that everything I have brought to the steps has been restored, that everything I have brought to the steps to watch, to hold my father's hand while he died. I was on my knees next to his bed and I was rocking him back and forth because he was so scared. And then 4 years later, my dad died on Christmas Eve, by the way. My mom, I'm sorry, I have a little dog that I rescued, and when I cry, she's just beside herself. So I'm not gonna ignore her. Um, so I've had to do hard things. Clean. I've had to do hard things, but what I wanted to tell you was that I never have had to do a hard thing alone. I've never had to do a hard thing alone, and that's what I'm offering you. Terry has my email. That's the best way for folks to find me. I'd like to know about you. I just want to read something to you before I go. If I can see, sorry. Just for today, my thoughts will be on my recovery, living and enjoying life without the use of drugs. Just for today, I will have faith in someone who believes in me and wants to help me in my recovery. Just for today, I will have a program. I will try to follow it to the best of my ability. Just for the day, I will try and get a better perspective on my life. I will be unafraid. My thoughts will be on my new associations, people who are not using and who have found a new way of life. So long as I follow this way, there is nothing to fear. God be with you. Thank you. That's it. Okay. Mommy's okay.